Hello, ninth grade. We are going to work on our bowl today. We're going to get pretty close to finishing, so we're going to send this apple backwards first. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it was, but if your apple's ahead of your grapes, you gotta send it backwards. So there's a couple ways we can do this. Remember, we can actually double click on this, click with two fingers to get this menu if we want. And if you have a bunch of stuff on your left menu over here, it might be easier sometimes. Like if I had this, let's say down. Put all this stuff down, it might be really annoying to scroll all the way through. So what I can do is just send this backwards, bring up that menu, clicking with two fingers on the mouse pad, going to bring or send to back. So now it's completely gone. We just want to bring it one layer forward above the picture, and now we can see it. Always we can just do control down arrow to send it backwards if we want to do that. Control plus to send it up. Control arrow up to send it up. So we want to make the bowl on this, right? So we're going to hit E for an ellipse, and we want to make an ellipse really thin to the rim. That's about the same size. Mine is not the exact right size. And also, it's got a gradient, if you'll notice, so we want to change that color. I will go to fills, and I want it to be white, so I can just use it over here. Hit white without a gradient. Color fill. So I also want the opacity down on it, so I can see the rim behind it. So let's bring it down to like somewhere around 50. I'll bring it up here. So now I got it pretty close to the way I want it. I'm going to transform it by hitting convert to path. Now I'm going to hit D. So now I can really transform it. Remember, I'll drag that upwards. I want this a little bit higher up. I want to make this kind of fat. So I'm going to add a second point here and drag that over here. Now, it's my decision as the artist. I've got, I think, snap on right now, so that's why I'm just making these things like that. But it looks pretty good to me, I think. So I'm going to keep that good. I'm going to keep that the way it is. I'm going to make another ellipse. So I'll hit E to make a new ellipse. And I'm going to make a big oval circle shape for the bottom of the bowl. So I'm really just trying to match the bottom shape of the bowl with this. We'll get rid of the top in a minute, in a second. But just try and match the bottom of the bowl, the shape of that, with your ellipse. So let's line it up. Oh, I grabbed the wrong thing. Click that big circle we just made, and that's close to where it should be. Again, we're going to hit convert to path. So now as a path, we can select points on it. Hit D for subselect on the keyboard. Remember, it's the arrow here, hollow arrow, D for subselect. And I just selected this top point. See, the other ones are white. This one is selected, it's blue. I want to delete that. It's going to flatten out this circle shape. So I deleted it now. It almost looks like a three-dimensional bowl right now, you can see. It doesn't matter really that it looks like that because our fruit is covering up, but that's cool that it did it like that. So we just want to match this bowl shape right now. We'll drag this point over here, and that's pretty close to the way that it's curving right here, but I'll add another point just to make it perfect. So I can grab these toggles. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see what we're talking about. I zoomed into the bowl over here, and now I can drag these toggles if I want to flatten out where it's going to be. You'll see how it gets flattened and it's closer to the actual shape of the bowl. I can do the same thing. I'm just flattening that by dragging the toggle up here, the node. That's what they call them. It looks like a toggle to me. I do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to click this point, drag it in to meet that one. And I'll add a new point here by clicking it, drag it out a little bit to meet up with the other one. And that's pretty close. I can leave it the way that it is if I want it. But if I want it to be perfect, I can drag these toggles. If I don't want to drag the toggles, I can actually just drag the center of it. And sometimes that's faster because I can just do all at once. So sometimes dragging the center of the line is a little bit faster than working with the nodes. Sometimes it's more precise to work with these toggle nodes. So I want to drag this upwards to flatten out this curve, if you haven't heard that enough. And I'm going to, again, drag that out to meet up with bowl shape. We can see it under there. Dragging the center of the line. Again, I can use these toggles, but I think it's faster to just drag the center of it. So zoom out. And that's pretty close for our bowl. I wanted to fix up our apple right now because it's not looking so hot. Let's turn the opacity so we can see it exactly how it is. So that's how it's supposed to look. That dimple pit is way large, so let's mess around with that. We're going to drag this X over here inwards, and that's going to, whoa, I'm dragging the wrong one. Yep, I see I'm dragging the red dot. That's not what we want to drag. I want to drag the X. So I'm dragging the whole X. And I just want to shrink it down a little bit. So with that. And I want to pick up the entire thing. So I'm going over the blue kind of like angle right there. And I'm waiting until I see this directional pad. Now I can drag it where I want it. I want it towards the top. It's all not exactly the way I want it. So let's try and drag this down. Yeah. So I'm dragging it towards the center of the apple. That looks a lot more like an apple. Oh, I got to go back into it. I accidentally clicked some outside of it. So if you click outside of it, you just got to click fill again. You just got to click over here where it says fill. I click there. And now I can, change this around again. And I'll move it to the top. That looks, I think, a lot more like where an apple pit would be. So let's give it a stem. Hit, let's do a rectangle. Just a bar for rectangle. Let's change that color. Make it, I hit the dropper. Let's change the color to the green. And we want to go from gradient. I know you guys can't see this. I'm hitting down the menu and I'm just clicking fill color at the top, just because I want it to be one color again. It's kind of cartoony, so let's make it a little bit darker than that. That looks nice to me. That looks like a stem. So we want to hit convert to path, hit D on the keypad, and we just change it around. I'll add a second point of articulation up here, and I'll kind of curve like that. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit V to move it around now. And I want that to be a little bit forward because I just added that shape, remember? We added that yesterday. So I want that to be a little bit forward. I'm going to hit Control plus, Control plus, Control plus, Control. I want it to be ahead of that there. Oh, that's not part of the apple. Okay, so I want to make that part of the apple. Let's add that into the group. Put that ahead of it. There's our stem. I'll just label it since I know that. Just double clicking on it to give it a name. And I'll copy and paste that and put it on the other one too. You can see, Control V. And I'll tilt it a little bit so it's not the exact same. Maybe shrink it so it doesn't look exactly the same again. So now we got our apple, we got our bowl. We just want to do a background for it. So let's make a rectangle. Start in the top left corner. We want it to be the entire canvas. So drag it from the top left, go all the way to the bottom right. You can only get so far, that's fine. I only got so far, so I can zoom out, Control minus. And, you know, minus is right to the plus sign on the keypad. So I'm dragging it out, just resizing it. I want this to be the entire frame, even though our picture doesn't take up the entire frame. And I'm going to do that thing with I select on the menu. So I'm going to hit the mouse pad with 2 fingers to get this menu. And then I'm going to select send to back. So now I can't see it behind, I can see it behind the picture. I want it 1 layer ahead of the picture. So I'm just bringing it up 1 layer ahead of the picture. Undo that, I put it into the apple somewhere. So undo, remember Control Z. I'm waiting for that little line to, I can see that line. I'm just dragging it up behind it. I'm dragging it up above the picture. So let's change the color of this. Let's give it a gradient, color fill. We go from color fill to linear gradient, the second options menu. And let's make the light at the top left, the shadow over here. This is pretty good for where we want the shadow, actually. You can make it over here when you change it that much. And let's give it a little bit of a light in there. So I'm going to select the middle of it and give it a little bit of a blue tint. If you don't like that, you don't have to do that, but do give it some sort of gradient. I don't know how my apple got so far forward. We want to send that backwards. Behind the grapes. So I just hit Control minus on that. And we also want our second apple to be grouped together, so we don't figure that out. So let's group our bowl together and our apple. So Control Z. Lock down your rectangle first. I've got our rectangle selected. Lock it down. That's our background. You can label it now. Oh, I can't label it now because I'm... Yeah. Unlock it. Background. Label it. Now I can lock it. Let's group together our bowl. And also one more thing with our bowl, let's give it, let's make a second rim for it. So copy and paste. Control C, Control V. You'll see it got a little bit darker because our opacity was down. Drag that and just make another one below. And make this one a little bit darker in your fills. Make it just like this dark gray color. Hit D to manipulate a little bit more. Add a second point of articulation. Show you what I just did there. It was hard to see. So what I did was, it's already a path. So all I hit D on the keypad, direct to make the sub-selection arrow. Add another point of articulation, and then drag that up to make it look like the real bowl. This one's already pretty much connecting. You could add it up a little bit more. So now let's bring up the opacity on all this stuff so we can actually see these things. Bring up the opacity on that. And we want this rim to be ahead of the other one. So if your white rim should be ahead of the darker gray rim. There you go. Select this, bring up the opacity on the right. And this one should be ahead of that. Exactly. And I'm doing Control plus on this. Control plus to bring it forward until it looks like it's correct. And that looks like it's correct now.